earlier vision. It was called Auto Training, not the Amtrak one. And then it was sold to the circus. And so it actually was part of the circus train. And if anybody's motivated later to walk around and down, unfortunately, when this walkway was set in place, it hid the brake housing, which we've had painted to make it the lettering more clear, but it says 1993 RBBB, Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey Circus. You come out, you start here. Why did the circus come to Venice? Wintering began in Venice. It tells about the circus arena in Venice that just came down in 2014. And this is the only place that Ringling ever constructed an arena. And we have an actual 3D replica of the arena made by a local citizen named Bill Double.
Wow.
Yeah. Here are the pictures of real people living on the circus train. Wow.
Yes, I am.
Oh, okay.
Go that way, I just live.
Base to get a picture.
Leaving room.
So is that the size? No, that was it. Not just a curtain or a bar that came across. So we set this up to show how our beginning plan for a showgirl would have lived on the circus train. All they had was this little roomette with a bunk and a trunk, they always said. Now, we're calling this the Peggy Williams room. Peggy attended a college for clowns that was established here. She was the first female hired by Ringling. And
Who later got a contract.
Who later got a contract with Ringling Brothers. And she always had a second bunk to put her bicycle up here, her suitcase and makeup, and she'd jump on her bicycle and ride around town whenever the circus train arrived. So this one is under construction. It will be finished soon. And please come back and look at the quilt. But this is showing the room slightly bigger of a boss clown. He was in charge of all the clowns, and we're honoring here Chuck Sidlow, who was the youngest boss clown ever to serve in the Ringling Circus. So we're going to show that he actually had a little sink, he had a little cupboard to make coffee, and he had his bunk up on top and a couple of chairs and a table
And
underneath.
here are the sink.
Oh, wow.
How big is that one? Sorry.
Yeah.
And
That one doesn't look big enough.
so this, the Schellenbergers, this was a couple that came down from Indiana, is that right, George?
Yes.
When he retired.
He was a farmer.
And he wanted to go to clown college here in Venice. We'll tell you about that in a minute. He was too old, so he used his skills in carpentry, etc., to make props for the clowns and the students who were learning how to be clowns. And they were people who were beloved by the clowns, and there's a nice quote here. But basically, their daughter made this beautiful quilt, so anyone interested, to honor her parents, and that's shown there. So I'll move out of the way so you can see these things.
Who did the quilt, Mary?
Deanna Schellenberger,
That's
their
beautiful.
daughter.
Beautiful work.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we have to kind of fold it over a little to make it fit. Our posters that we got from the Ringling Museum in Sarasota, all the other posters in the car say Circus Arena, Venice, Florida.
Oh, cool.
This part is modern day. This
And great success of Clown College is, I believe, the most important, because Clown College graduated more than 1,400 clowns. It was hard to get into, really hard.
It had Harvard, Yale on that one poster. Meaning very high
Yes,
quality, very
yes.
accomplished. This was, Clown College was the mecca.
Very exclusive school for clowns, yes. And not all of them got into the Ringling Circus. In fact, most of them didn't. But they went on to transform the world of comedy, give it new life, and they took on various roles. Some went to clowning positions elsewhere, or they taught clowning, or in the entertainment world. So they would travel, the circus would travel around the country, and they'd advertise in their big programs for Clown College, so everybody learned about
Okay,
Venice.
that's all.
And I didn't mention that over there in the early 60s, when Ringling still owned the circus, every train car that went out of the station said Venice, Florida on the bottom. So, you know, it was a great way for a town of 500 people at that time, or maybe 5,000, I'll have to check, but very small. So what kind of college was Clown College? Here's how you, well, they recruited students through the magazines, and they had these humorous little things. If you're 17 years of age or older and have a sincere desire to pursue a career in the noble calling of providing laughter to the world, get detailed information in Venice, Florida. They had to apply, they had to audition at various places around the country. They were here for maybe 6 to 8 weeks, and at the end they got a diploma, 8 to 10 weeks. And it was free, but they had to pay for their own living expenses. But guess what? They lived in these villas that are still down there along the coast. I mean, they were right on the beach. They had these cute little villas where they could cook inside. And they had a bus that brought them back and forth from the arena where they trained to Venice Villas. So it was, here are some of the things they learned, you know, how to ride elephants, how to jump.
Oh my goodness, and they would never have had prior experience. I mean,
How would you?
how would you?
Well, interested in Peggy Williams that I told you about? She was a student who graduated in the field of learning disabilities and language, speech pathology at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. That's where she lived. And she, at the time, it was the time of all of the protests, the Vietnam War protests, and that just wasn't for her. So she saw this advertisement for Clown College. She thought, well, that would be an interesting way to supplement my career as someone teaching speech pathology, you know, working as a speech pathologist, to see how these people communicate without words.
Oh, interesting.
So she joined Clown College. She got a contract with Ringling. She never left.
Oh, wow.
She had a successful career. She's being honored February 14th, I think it is, up at the Circus Ring of Fame on St. Armand's Circle. And then when her performing career ended, she became an administrator with Feld Entertainment, and it was their educational outreach director and many other things. So,
It's the mecca of nonverbal communication.
yeah. And so graduation, called the world's funniest final exam, was an extravaganza performance put on by the students. And Irvin, Feld, and later Kenneth would sit there and watch all the performances, and then they would decide who they were going to give a contract to. So the next day you waited to see, there was a little room in the arena where upstairs where the Felds had their office, and you would wait to see if you were invited to go up and meet with Irvin and Kenneth, and you got a contract.
And what was the male-female ratio in Clown College?
Well, overwhelmingly male, and Peggy was the first female.
Okay.
And she said, you know, she just wanted to be a clown, like all of us. We just want to be professors.
Right.
But when you get there, she'd overhear the teachers saying, well, what are we going to do with the girl?
Yeah.
Right.
More women joined, like every other profession.
But I was thinking of the disguise, if that influenced a greater transition for women, but
Probably did, because they played more.
as the years continued, but you don't have data to show that. I mean, but that's a speculation.
Really?
Yeah.
Or also, did the clowns have families within the circus community, and then they became clowns as a result?
Yes.
Little clown, I guess I'm asking, children clowns?
Well, in fact, if you mind me to get back to that,
Okay.
this is the living room now. Gunther Gable Williams and his family, they had a whole train car for their home. So the beginning clown had a bunk. The boss clown had something a little bigger. By the time Peggy's career ended, she had a quarter of a car. But the Gables, he was so prominent in the circus, they had an entire train car. And we have here a small replica of their living room.
And what kind of family did he have? A wife?
Here's his wife Sigrid, she's a friend of ours. And
Oh, you know her.
they had two children, Mark and Tina. What I was going to say is Tina is now married to a fifth generation clown. He's the fifth generation in his family to be a clown, and some of those, if not all those generations, worked for Ringling. But here's pictures of them. So this shows that, according to Sigrid, they had a clock because they always had to know what time it was. They had a money tree because they were from Europe and they were superstitious, and they thought that if they had a money tree, which is that thing on the back wall, they were rich.
Right.
Gunther enjoyed watching TV, drinking Coca-Cola or Jack Daniels. He would have he installed an antenna so when the circus train was in town, he could walk and put it on and then he could watch TV. He loved to wear elegant boots and jeans jackets, especially when they had several weeks of performance in Madison Square Garden. He loved to walk around in his cowboy outfits in New York. And Sigrid, so they see those wine glasses back there. Every time the train pulled into town, I always get this mixed up. Once they got, when the train left the town, she had to take them down because of the bumping.
So they, yeah,
And,
sure.
and then once they were out on the road, she put them back up on the rack again. And she redecorated the rooms every year. So we had general descriptions of the furniture, and we purchased these items locally. And she came and the family, and they loved it.
Oh,
Because she's very particular.
There were some tense moments.
Now, do the mirrors mean anything in particular?
She always had the mirrors to make it look bigger.
Bigger and just reflective of
Yeah.
all kinds of
Mhm.
analogies there.
She always decorated in neutrals because their life was so colorful and filled with the noise of color and the excitement. So she decorated in neutrals. There's we didn't.
Oh, here
he There is. He is.
Oh, wow. Thank you, George.
Oh.
Put my arms in any way down. I like to have his own personality. Teach him.
Did the family have little cats?
Respect me. I respect you very much. So I think it's going to be clear in my performing.
To each performance, Gunther brought a quiet authority and his own sense of playfulness. He worked hard to make it look easy, and when his work was done, he found the comfort and support of his close-knit family.
When I make practice, I start in the morning with tigers and with horses, after with elephants. When I come home, I'm repeated. So you have a very, very, very supporting family, and I have this. That's very important. I have a great family.
This depth of feeling, this dedication to his family, his animals, and to the circus has earned Gunther the lasting respect of his fellow performers.
They've seen the love that he has for the animals and the love that he has for really everyone.
He was the energy source for all of us.
That's
and
Peggy
when the
Williams.
lights hit it, it was even brighter. And it just illuminated all of us.
He's never, ever missed a show. That's unbelievable. In 21 years, nearly 10, maybe over 10,000 shows, he's never missed a show.
From the first moment Gunther
Kenneth Feld.
I've been looking for the next Gunther. That may be the challenge of my lifetime.
In a brief but moving ceremony at the last performance of his farewell tour, Gunther received a letter of congratulations from the President of the United States and was presented with a sterling silver sculpture.
In 1983, two aerialists married from two. Oh, you've got to watch this. This is the local priest blessing the circus train.
Oh my.
This is the only video I've ever seen, I think anyone's ever seen. And the altar boys are always standing still. Well, look at the video.
Oh, yeah.
They're being kids.
They're
lot of
being
fun.
kids, yeah.
Anyway, there was a big wedding of the two. It was the whole town participated. Everyone was invited. They were invited to the arena for a reception. They were married in the Epiphany Church. There's Irvin and Kenneth Feld in a wagon being drawn by horses. Here are the clowns waiting outside the church. And so after the ceremony, they went to the arena, and she took off her wedding dress, had her leotards on, left her veil on, and they did a performance in her wedding veil.
Oh my goodness.
Cool.
Fairy tales can come true.
Right. The arena was often used by Venice High for the Venice High graduation. The local priest always blessed the circus train. Here is Clown College sending in the program for the class of 79 high school graduation, Clown College is congratulating the graduates. So you can see there was... In the yearbook, okay. Yeah, good. They found local talent to help them build the arena. Here's a man, Lee Verchesky, not Lee, Gene Verchesky, his son is Lee. And, Venice was a small town, and they found this very creative guy to build the arena. He designed the ring curbs like this. This was 4 different semicircular, not semi, but whatever the quattro would be. Ring curbs, and he designed them so if you took the top off, they were like cabinets, and and they could put all the stuff they wanted to transport around the country, and just pull out the rigging for the showgirls, and set it up. He also designed these tunnel cars, so they took baggage cars, took the ends off. They put all their stuff into containers that are like those pods, and they would put them in the baggage cars with the open ends. They would hook them all up in a truck and just pull them out on a string, like coming out of a straw. But it all made it traveling around the country easier, and that was developed by a local man in Venice.
It's funny, we have some workers coming through here that had worked in the circus. And we mentioned Gene Verchesky, and I said, I don't know that name. Verchesky, no, I don't know that name. What I do know is that when we needed something, we were to go to G&G Metals, and that's the way they knew him, was G&G Metals, and that's what his company name was.
Oh, and there's a picture of it back in the day.
George, one of the G's is George Verchesky, and the other one, or Gene rather, and the other is George. Now George was the name of his wife.
Oh.
There were places that the circus people would always go. This old clock restaurant recently disappeared. But there, local air conditioning companies would help performers who stayed here, when it was hot, put air conditioning in their cars. Calico corners for materials for making costumes. They used a lot of awards and that type of thing. Suncoast engravings, we still use them for making our name tags and all. They worked with the circus. Dorset signs, they printed all these pictures on the back material, and they're still here. So there was all this business that the circus brought to Venice. But at the same time, the circus found talent here that they could use. But by the 1980s, more people were coming to town, bigger housing developments, and a lot of the city leaders were kind of tired of the circus. And so they went through a period this was the political cartoon in the paper where the clown is saying, Venice, she loves me not. She loves me, she loves me not.
The Daisy.
They didn't feel that the performers or workers spent enough money in Venice. So in true circus fashion, Kenneth got a golden wheelbarrow and put a lot of cash in it and went to City Hall to pay his taxes. He paid the payroll of all his workers in $2 bills, all these were. It wasn't just cash, it was $2 bills. And there wasn't one cash register in town that had a slot for $2 bills. So it made everybody very aware of where they were spending their money.
That was very clever.
That was very
clever.
Yeah.
in
Nevertheless,
Circus Lee.
nevertheless, this is what the depot looked like. You know, and by the time when we were talking about the late 80s, it was in terrible condition, and those tracks that are right out, well, used to be right out there where the Legacy Bike Trail is, they couldn't handle the heavy trains. And so the circus decided to leave and went to the Tampa Fairgrounds to winter there. And that was in 91, 92. And everybody tried to save the arena, which was here forever. City Council finally took it down in 2014. So here's a timeline of all the key things that took place since 1984 when Irvin passed away in Venice Hospital, down to our exhibits opening up. And then this is a display about all the people, this is only some of them, but many, many performers stayed in Venice, made it their home. Once they were no longer in the circus, the Gables started a wedding business. John Nomowitz has a jewelry store downtown. These people just retired. This fellow has a landscaping business. One of these brothers has a metal workshop out in North Venice. Here are the Gaionas. We gave a lot of space to them because they're such a prominent circus family. So this is Tito, and this is his trapeze academy. Here's Tito again, looking very attractive as a young man, and with his siblings. Here was, this fellow is a local musician, and you see him in Sarasota. Like we went up to a concert at the Florida Studio Theater, Bird Bacharach Review, and George pointed to the program. There was Keith Green playing the trumpet in the band, so he's a local musician. This fellow was the train master responsible for getting the train to where it needed to be on time, loading and unloading. He was beloved by many, many people, and he lived in Nokomis until he passed away. And this is another fellow who, after his retirement, stayed here and volunteered at the theater, etc. That's what makes Venice special, because you run into, this is an example of how you run into these people all the time. So that's our story. We have many donors, from many people giving $5 all the way up to a foundation that gave $72,000. And we raised $351,000 just to get the project done. Now we're dependent on donations to maintain the car. We donated it to the county when it arrived here, and they said that it would accept it and lease it to us, but we have to maintain it and the caboose. Air conditioning, painting, and for a small organization that, this is the past year is the first year our budget has been over $20,000 a year. And so we're going to need hundreds of thousands to maintain these. So,
Is there anything in the caboose, or is that?
it's an office. George might let you in, except we just took a lot of his construction stuff.
Oh, no,
over
that's,
there.
I was just curious.
It's
if
fine, yeah.
if it
Are
was-
you going to make it more of a museum piece at some point? Is that
Yes,
the
and
goal?
it has been.
Oh, okay.
In addition, it's sort of dual use. In the old days, the president of the organization used to have that as their office and actually use it that way, but work styles have changed and so on.
Okay.
But the inside, we can tell the story of what the caboose looked like. But anything of any great original interest for the interior of the caboose is gone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so.
If we have any life in this, George, after this project is over, George would like to convert it into what a caboose was really like.
There wasn't much in a caboose, so it would be fairly easy.
We have to find an office. We don't have a place for an office or the money for an office, so.
You're tired of using your dining room table.
Right. So anyway, remember there are other videos of the circus train. Oh, and this is a really cool one if it happens to be coming around to the elephants. Pounding. No. No, have you been to the Venice Holiday Parade?
No. When does that occur?
That occurs the Saturday after Thanksgiving. So you have all these people formerly lining two sides of Venice Avenue, little kids screaming, and sometimes 16 elephants would thunder down the street, go up, get on each other's backs, and bow. They were under perfect control, but it was like, wow, you can't really believe that.